positive autonomous arrangements for Bougainville. Import businesses up in arms over customs closure. And 100 million kina allocated for LLG elections.
This is the National EMTV News with Meribah Tulo.
A very good evening. Thank you for joining us for Tuesday's news. The autonomous arrangements for Bougainville have been described as positive. However, there is also room for improvement. Among these, the need for the effective use of knowledge, capacity and time. These were points highlighted during a presentation of 2 draft reports of research into Bougainville's referendum. The research conducted by PNG NRI through its Bougainville Referendum Research Project. As part of its Bougainville Referendum Research Project, 2 draft reports were released today by the PNG National Research Institute. These reports focusing on the autonomous region's fiscal autonomy as well as on the issue of political autonomy. According to PNG NRI Director Dr. Osborne Sanida, given that Bougainville is counting down to its date of referendum, these reports highlight some issues that the PNG NRI feel need to be given thought by stakeholders both from Papua New Guinea as well as from the autonomous region of Bougainville.
NRI is conducting these studies independently to contribute to discussions on the referendum. So we are happy to have international experts to contribute in terms of the work to these studies.
The report on fiscal autonomy was spearheaded by Professor Satish Chand. According to Professor Chand, an immediate need for Bougainville is to increase the capacity to fund its own budget regardless of the level of autonomy it has now or may have following referendum in 2019. Of particular importance, developmental taxation, broadening the tax base for Bougainville. Professor Chand says given mining is still a controversial issue on the island and that revenue from mining may take a decade to be realized, the autonomous region should be looking to fisheries or agriculture as ways to increase internal revenue.
We sort of know how much money Bougainville would need to provide the current level of services, right? The next question is saying how fast can the economy grow? And you can draw from experiences elsewhere as the fastest rate that is possible versus what we have experienced so far. If you grow very fast, you can achieve that target within a decade. Okay? But if you don't grow at all, you will never get there. See what I'm saying? So yes, once you know how much do you need, you can work backwards. But that means that we need to have developmental taxation, which means that we have to have policies and resources targeted at growing the economy. So in terms of collection, it always makes sense to have an overarching body that manages the entire resource. Okay? So that's one point. The other is, as you divide the actual administration of those regions separately into smaller and smaller subunits, the cost of administering that rises, right? It's like having smaller and smaller governments. So in this case, just on pure economics, economies of scale says that the one agency managing the overall resource makes a lot more sense, but there has to be an agreement between the governments as to how the revenue being collected is going to be shared.
The PNG NRI also released a draft report on political autonomy. This was presented by Martina Tretel. The report looked at the various forms of autonomy that are present in other jurisdictions and compared these to the Bougainville experience. According to Ms. Tretel, with the date for referendum fast approaching, there is an imminent need for both the national government as well as the ABG to work out what sort of arrangement that may be beneficial for the island region in the immediate future as well as post-referendum. The report has highlighted the need for both governments to share the responsibility of autonomy going forward.
Is there, then there is the time to build the capacity and to start to create a know-how regarding these issues. And I think this is the biggest challenge that Bougainville has regarding its autonomy.
Following the release of these 2 draft reports today, the research team will be presenting the findings to the autonomous Bougainville government in Buka, Bougainville, in the coming days.
Now the communication is really up, we are doing it to government level, like what we're doing now, and to the key people in Bougainville we're going to go across. The challenge is really now to sort of extend that communication and really get that information down to the ordinary people. And that's something that we will need to work on.
The continued closure of the PNG Customs Service headquarters has not gone down well with the National Customs Brokers Association. Its president, Nathan Baloiloi, spoke to EMTV News, saying the current situation would mean the country would miss out on much-needed revenue, especially given the fact that the PNG Customs Service is one of the main revenue earners.
As of today, the PNG Customs sea freight operations have ceased. This follows the main office locked out 2 weeks ago. Speaking to National EMTV News, the president of PNG Customs Brokers Association estimates that more than 100 million kina has already been lost during this period of the PNG Customs Services office being locked out following non-payment of rentals. He says businesses who rely on imports are affected due to this closure, with the country ultimately losing much-needed revenue.
Revenue for the state. PNG Customs has been the largest collector in terms of revenue. The government needs to urgently address this matter and not prolong it any further than tomorrow or to extend it to the end of this week.
In Port Moresby for the past 2 weeks, all shipments have not left wharf, with no clearance conducted by customs officials. Licensed customs agents are very frustrated as it puts their customers in an awkward situation.
The cost incurred, all of us are going to pay, because at the end of the day we are going to go to the shops and we are going to buy. So when they do their costings, they are going to include whatever has been incurred down at the wharf.
Mr. Pamuan says this issue of unpaid rentals have greatly affected importers, as customs sea freight operations have been put on hold for an indefinite period.
Is the importing community at the moment. We have, especially the sea freight side of things, is a total shutdown, which means customs won't be processing any more documentation for any sea freight clearances. We have containers they have been sitting on the wharf since the closure, and the storage is accumulating, the business houses is suffering. But on the other hand, the government too is not collecting revenue.
Lillian Kinea, National EMTV News.
The national government has allocated 100 million kina for the local level government elections. Acting Prime Minister and Treasurer Charles Abel says the LLG elections are scheduled to be held before the 2018 APEC Summit. However, a finalized date is yet to be confirmed by the PNG Electoral Commission. Meanwhile, Morobe Governor Ginson Sauno says the Morobe provincial government has also included funding in their budget for the upcoming LLG elections.
We've got to be very careful. We can't play around with those timings. That's a mandate is for 5 years, and it's the responsibility of the Electoral Commission to administer that constitutional provision. So we have an obligation, and we expect to see those elections conducted by the Electoral Commissioner. Unless he has some other basis and reasoning, we expect to have the local level government elections this year.
In our appropriation, we also made available 1 million kina just in case anything happens. We are there to help.
The Morobe provincial government, led by Governor Ginson Sauno, handed over their 2018 provincial budget to Treasurer Charles Abel. The total budget for 2018 is 402 million kina, and the main priorities are education, health, transportation, infrastructure, and local level government grants.
The 2018 Morobe provincial budget was officially handed over to the Treasurer, Charles Abel. The total expenditure for 2018 is 402,280,000 kina. Of that, the biggest cuts are going to LLG function grants with 13.5 million kina, health with 8.3 million kina, education with 8.2 million kina, Treasury Scholarship with 4 million kina, and Christian Church Partnership with 1.1 million kina. An issue brought up during the presentation was the Lae City Authority, which Treasurer Abel advised the Governor to find a working mechanism for the province and district and the Lae Authority to ensure the authority does its function, Meanwhile, grants have been allocated in the provincial budget for the Lae City Authority. Governor Sanu also said that each district is expected to present their budgets to the Morobe provincial government to ensure accountability.
In the name of the province. So we would like to see how that money that comes to the provinces, say totaling say 10 million times 9 districts, it's already 90 million. We want to see the effect of that 90 million.
Adelaide Sirok's Kari National, EMTV News.
The Department of Education is warning parents and guardians not to enroll their children in institutions not recognized by the Department of Education. Education Secretary Dr. Uke Kombra made this remark after an advertisement by Kumul Teachers College in one of the daily newspapers last week, offering diplomas in primary school teaching over a 3-year period. Dr. Kombra said Kumul Teachers College is not an approved teacher training institution and students who graduate from this institution will not be allowed to teach in the national education system. Secretary Kombra, in a media statement, said the establishment of new colleges and institutions in the country must first be endorsed by the Department of Education. He said currently there are only 18 approved teacher training colleges and institutions in the country which are recognized by the department, and Kumul Teachers College is not one of them. Here with National EMTV News, among stories after the break, 20 suspects identified in the murder of a policeman, and Harbour Prison in Hela to be opened after 20 years of closure. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the news. The National Court in Madang has dismissed an election petition filed by petitioner Edwin Buffet. Justice Colin McKyle handed the decision, describing the petition as incompetent. The election petition was filed on the grounds of bribery, undue influence and illegal practices during polling in the 2017 election for the Raikos open seat. The petitioner, Edwin Buffet, filed the petition against first respondent Peter Sapir, the current member, and the PNG Electoral Commissioner as the second respondent. Justice McKyle told the court the allegations lacked material fact and presented figures were lacking or missing, and that it would be pointless for the parties to proceed to trial.
Support him all schools smart team start staff for university. Now build him all infrastructure and including education. And including health services and not the priority where Bami look na. One map where all 8 posts closed down Bami reopen him can. Na grab him all 8 posts na salim all health workers he go to down long. Press per work. And in the agriculture sector, Bami strong in support him all work agriculture na all legal farmers inside long Raikos district. Social services,
According to police reports, the fatal car accident at Naswampum along the Lae Nadzap highway a week ago was due to human error caused by drink driving. The road collision involved a 15-seater PMV bus travelling from Madang to Lae and a 5-door Land Cruiser heading to Nadzap Airport to drop off a family. Morobe's Provincial Police Commander, Chief Superintendent Augustine Wampe, said the driver of the Land Cruiser was at fault and is now in hiding.
According to police reports, the driver of the white 5-door Land Cruiser was driving under the influence of alcohol. He quickly dozed off when he realized he was heading into a nearby bush. The driver quickly adjusted the vehicle back on the road when he collided into the blue 15-seater PMV bus. Morobe's Provincial Police Commander, Chief Superintendent Augustine Wampe, says the driver fled after the accident and is still in hiding.
People traveling using the Highlands Highway, especially the route from Lae to Nadzap, because early hours people are trying to get to the airport to get their friends or ones to fly out from the airport using the airport. They have to be very cautious because there's a lot of traffic accidents along this road.
The fatal accident on Saturday, 13 January at Naswampum in Markham district of Morobe resulted in the deaths of 7 people. This includes the driver of this blue 15-seater bus and the Munga family, Brenda, Murphy, their children Nathaniel 4 and Jaslyn 2, along with the babysitter. The Munga family was picked up by the white 5-door Land Cruiser at 2 p.m. on Saturday, 13 January to Nadzab Airport to board a light aircraft to Kabum in Morobe when the accident happened.
So I asked all the drivers to be very cautious while driving. Your life is more important than getting to the other destination you want to travel. You have to be very cautious.
Morobe's Provincial Police Commander Augustine Wampe confirmed that the accident was caused by human error. The driver of the white five-door believed to be intoxicated. The PPC also confirmed that the white five-door Land Cruiser belongs to the office of the governor for Morobe. Wampe has called on the driver of the white five-door to turn himself to the police for his own safety. Julie Badui Owa, National MTV News, Leh.
Hela police have identified 20 men as suspects in relation to the death of a police officer near Tari last week. Provincial Administrator William Bando says the incident is unfortunate but called on the police hierarchy to assist in apprehending the suspects quickly. This was Bando's response when asked on the safety of law enforcers who are currently serving in Hela.
The provincial administrator says the suspects involved in the recent death of late Sergeant Philip Alupa last Thursday are known to police. However, no arrests have yet been made. The incident occurred at Ambua Gap, about 20 minutes drive out of Tari town. Initial police report states that the deceased was a commander of a highway patrol unit in Hela and was on duty when he was gunned down.
The investigations will reveal what the cause of that killing is, but we do feel shattered because this is a policeman in police uniform on duty getting shot down 20 minutes outside of capital Tari, and we condemn in all manner of the word what has happened, and with our policemen are investigating.
The Hela Provincial Administration admits that it is facing big challenges in its law and order. Currently, the province only has 60 regular police officers. Most have left the province after the death of 2 other policemen in late 2017.
And also it's a call on the police as this is one of the men, and we also lost another 2 late last year. Investigations are still haven't commenced, and the police hierarchy needs to wake up and get down to the bottom of this, because these are their men. It's 3 men from one same district getting shot down in a space of 3 months. So Governor and myself, we are unarmed. Forget the civilians out there, our general Hela population. If a policeman getting shot down, armed policeman getting shot down, then obviously safety is not guaranteed for all of us, including the security forces.
Hela police are expected to conduct a raid in the area where the suspects live if the relatives do not surrender them within the 48-hour deadline. Thekla Gunga, National MTV News.
A man accused of murder will stand trial at the National Court in Port Moresby in February. Jefta Monusa from Woginara in Wibak, East Sepik Province, was accused to have struck a police suspect, the late Eric Maya, on the head with a gas gun. The court heard that Maya died from injuries he sustained from that incident. It is alleged that Mosuna was part of a group of children of police officers who wore police uniforms and conducted police work at the Gordons area in March 2017. And it was during that time that Musuna took the late Maya to the station on allegations of swearing and hit him on the head with the gas gun. An employee of a food company in Port Moresby has appeared before the Waigani Committal Court for stealing 10 pallets of flour. Frank Haka from Gulf Province was accused to have sold flour to a wholesale in Gordons for 15,000 kina, that is 13,000 kina less than its actual cost. Police allege that on the 16th of December last year, Haka conspired with others and stole 10 pallets from Goodman Fielders, and after selling it, split the money with his accomplices. This case returns to court for the second mention in February. And moving on, an estimated 35 correctional officers will be transferred to serve at the Howard Jail in Hela. This comes following a joint partnership with the provincial government and Correctional Service. A cheque of 200,000 kina was given to Correctional Service this morning to prepare for the opening of the prison.
The discussions on the reopening of the Awai jail has been ongoing for 2 decades. CS Commissioner says the check presentation of 200,000 kina marks the start of the admission and reception process. The CS department has already established a body to select correctional officers to be transferred to this new facility.
We have a list of 35, but it will depend on where they are located. In the first instance, we are looking at drawing those staff who are actually on our establishment. Like if we pull anybody from anywhere else, will not be in order. But the order of the business would be that staff who are actually on our establishment will be the first to go, because they're actually being paid against a position that is under that establishment. So,
the Awai jail was closed in 1997 during a drought, and the facility remained closed for 20 years. With the absence of a prison, inmates are taken to either Baisu in the Western Highlands or Buyabi in Southern Highlands.
Hela justice sector was incomplete with the absence of our CIS. From prosecution or arrest to laying charges at the courts, and then you take them as remedies and they serve the penalties or rehabilitate. But that has been not doing, and it has been a challenge in law and sector justice in Hela province.
However, Hela Governor Philip Undialu says there is a very big risk involved when police or correctional officers transport inmates from the prisons to the courthouse and back.
I think you are determined, and we are all determined, so I look forward to reopening the RCS. The Hela provincial government is committed, and we have invested especially in the infrastructure as well as restoration of power supply up. And in the new year, we are looking at opening the roads up from Tari to Hawasias. We will be committing funds to look at additional infrastructure that is needed, especially the fencing component. And
the new facility has the capacity to hold 120 inmates, but CS is working on increasing it to 200. Meanwhile, power and water supplies have been connected, and the facility only needs cleaning around its perimeter.
Administration have done a lot. We've actually visited the institution towards the end of last year, and are satisfied that there is accommodation available for staff, but obviously the essential services which they are taking care of, and maybe out of this arrangement we can have a look at how best we'll be able to progress this arrangement to quickly facilitate the movements of the officers to be up there so that they can commence.
This is an approach the provincial government is taking to address law and order issues in the province. Theklagunga, National EMTV News.
You're watching National EMTV News. We go for a break now and be back with more on the other side. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the news. The preliminary report into the fatal aircraft accident between Yalumet and Saido Gap in Morbe province was released today by the Accident Investigation Commission. According to investigators, the North Coast Aviation aircraft had impacted a ridge at about 9,500 feet on the ridge that runs down towards the Sapmanga Valley from the Sarawak Ranges in Morbe province. The pilot elected to track across Sarawak ranges from Derim to Nadzap Airport, but the aircraft was on a shallow descent towards the ridges at that time and impacted the ridge about 150 meters beyond the last fix.
AIC investigators arrived at the scene of the accident on the 6th of January 2018, assisted by 2 aircraft engineers from North Coast Aviation. Part of the delay was to have the search and rescue team complete their task before AIC conducted its investigations. Adverse weather over the Sarawak ranges at the time of the flight and the days that followed saw low clouds and periods of rain, which hampered the investigations.
At this point of time, there was adverse weather over the Sarawak range at the time of the flight and during the following days. It had low cloud and periods of rain that hampered the search. On the 6th of January 2018, the AIC investigation team, assisted by 2 aircraft engineers from North Coast Aviation, reached the accident site and conducted the on-site phase of the investigation. The investigators used the AIC's recently acquired drone to survey the accident site, which enabled the investigation team to capture video imagery and photographs from above the trees and below the foliage canopy over the accident site. And previously a helicopter would have been required, and due to the rotor wash disrupting the wreckage, a helicopter would not be able to gain such close access.
During the search of the aircraft, what had appeared to be the right aileron was found hanging from a tree near the top of the heavily timbered, densely vegetated ridge. The remainder of the wreckage was found about 150 meters from the aileron along the projected area.
The fact that we were able to go to the accident site, and in general terms, we're not going into specifics at the moment, but the facts are that we have been able to gain very clear and good evidence from our visit to the accident site. We've also been able to gather documentary evidence and other the GPS tracking data. Thankfully, many aircraft in this country now have GPS type tracking, and as an investigation medium, these aircraft don't have what's called a black box, the flight data recorder, but the data that we can get from the tracking data does help us with things like speed and altitude and that sort of thing.
Strace says investigations are continuing and will include an analysis of the evidence obtained at the accident site and data and documents relating to the weather, communications, search and rescue and flight operations record. Chief Commissioner Mr. Namani says AIC's investigations would have been very difficult given the unpredictable weather and the difficult environment, but the recently acquired drone to survey the accident site had enabled AIC investigators to carry out investigations smoothly. Stacey Yallo, National, EMTV News.
On a much brighter note, Rabaul town may have been destroyed by volcanoes in 1994. However, there are a few buildings that remind visitors of the town once called the Pearl of the Pacific. Rabaul Hotel is one of the iconic structures that remain relatively new, despite suffering extensive damages in 1994. The hotel owner, Susie McGrade, tells the story of how her hotel survived the eruption and how it continues to triumph over ongoing volcano adversities.
For those who have lived and worked in its New Britain province will remember the beautiful town of Rabaul before the 1994 twin eruption of Mount Vulvur and Vulcan volcanoes that destroyed the town. Along with the destructions, many of the business houses couldn't be revived, while only a few have been brought back to life. The Rabaul Hotel, located along the famous Mango Avenue at the far end of Rabaul town, is one structure that was brought to its knees during the eruptions. But despite the damages, it didn't stop the owner, Susie McGrade, to restore the business to its glory days.
It was all of us got stuck into the hotel. We never left. My father, my husband, some of the staff, we all stayed here, and we made sure that the ash was taken off the roof, because it didn't take long to work out that if we let the ash build up, it would get heavy because it started to rain and it would just be too heavy for the roofs to cope.
Susie McGrade is the fourth generation of the McGrade family and a long-time resident of Rabaul town who has inherited the business from her parents. And to Susan, Rabaul is home and a place she has made up her mind not to leave.
So my father's from Glasgow and my mother's from Edinburgh. I consider myself half Scottish, half Rabaul. And then, of course, my daughter is from here, so my grandparents are buried at the European cemetery, so that's 4 generations of Christie's McGrades in Rabaul.
It's been nearly 6 decades and the hotel continues to survive amidst ongoing volcanic activities over the years, and it is one of the first ever built in the province long before the 1994 eruptions. Although not many visitors come here like they used to in the past, but what stood out from the place is its stories that resonates with the volcanoes.
Most of it was destroyed in a fire around 1984, and my father rebuilt it in partnership with Sir Julius Chan. And then just before the eruption, I think about 2 years, 18 months before the eruption, my father purchased the hotel from Sir Julius.
Despite the ever-present risk of a volcano eruption, the diehards have returned to their homes in and around Rabaul town to start their lives all over again. And Rabaul Hotel is one of them, that the owner says they want to provide the best to their visitors who chose to visit this once beautiful town. Edwin Fidelis, National EMTV News, Kokopo.
You're watching National EMTV News. Trukai Sports is up next. We'll be back with the details. Stay tuned.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. The PNG RFL and the Rugby League fraternity around the country have again been devastated by the news of the passing of another former PNG Kumul, the great Lohia Darwa. Darwa, aged 67, from Hanobada, died in Port Moresby on Sunday after a short illness. He played 2 tests for PNG and wore the first Kumul's jersey number 3 as a centre in PNG's first ever test match against England in Port Moresby in July 1975. The final SPPNG Hunters team has been named by coach Michael Marum. The team consists of 29 players.
The players signed their contracts in Port Moresby on Sunday night. There are 13 new players in the team selected from the Intercity Cup competition and 2 from Port Moresby Rugby League. Ila Alu and Gilbert Isaac were selected from the Rabaul Gurriers, Bounder Abba and Junior Bobby from the Anga Muyokes, John Andy and Charlie Simon from the Lace Necks Tigers, Clyde Nama and Edene Gebi were selected from PRL, while Mackenzie Ye and Junior Rao from the Hella Wigmen. 14 players from last season's Hunters team have returned, with captain Ase Boas set to continue in his 4th year with the team, along with Wartovo Pora Jr. Adam Korave has returned after a 1-year absence. His experience will help lead the forwards in this year's ISC competition. They are preparing for the pre-season trial match against NRL giants Brisbane Broncos at the National Football Stadium on the 24th of February. This trial match will see the team try out new combinations and will help give some experience to the new players. Elijah Levet, National EMTV Sports.
To Rugby Union, the PNG Men's Rugby Sevens head coach Douglas Guys said the Pukpuks will have to work together as a single unit and stick to their game system and structure in order to tackle the top Rugby Sevens nations. The team left for Sydney today and will compete at the 2018 HSBC Sydney Sevens, which starts on Friday.
The Pukpuks have been working hard on their speed and good decision-making, which might come in handy especially when pulled alongside top-tier nations that will see the Pukpuk squad tested at all levels this Friday.
Like I said, we really try to work on good, clear decisions, and like if we're going to be confrontational and take contact, as long as the boys make the decisions quickly so everybody else can react to it. Yeah, so yeah. We're trying to, that's why I said we're trying to select good, all-rounded, well-versed players and smart players. Yeah. Not only the big, tough and fast guys, they got to be smart.
However, no major injury concerns for the 12-member squad as they depart for Sydney with their first hit out against USA and Kenya tomorrow in a friendly match prior to the actual tournament.
We've got the current World Series champions, number 1 South Africa, and we've also got the number 2 ranked team as well, England, and then we've got Spain to close off our pool here. So it's all some pretty tough matches over the next couple of weekends, and it's going to be a good challenge for the boys.
With the captaincy responsibility shared amongst experienced players in the squad at every international tournament, Henry Kalua was Coach Guys' pick to lead the team in Sydney. Players to look out for in the tournament may not be Wesley Valley this time around, but a couple of new faces tipped by Coach Guys that might add flair to the side.
I think we're looking at Freddie Rover and Gairo Kapana, the two boys from Aroma. They're very raw, very fast, they're very elusive. Yeah, they've got all the ingredients to be a good sevens player. Yes.
Samuel Malambis is one of the new inclusion in the team, set to break into the international scene after making his debut for PNG in Fiji recently.
Saya memang big challenge lumin sa lap, but me feel good to say coach game all training lomla finish throughout lo amas play 8 weeks me plus problem. So me feeling good. I feel better. I feel pumped up already logo na.
The 22-year-old from New Island heritage knows his expectation from his coach and will be out to make an impression not only to his coach but to the national team.
Lumiet I'm feeling so me got on the big role backside lumiet lo play not for me to make him inside lo make him logo longkong but lo strong mo boys namin pla kasi mo na something bela go lo making.
Shane Saroya, National EMTV Sports.
Still ahead on Trukai Sports, we have some updates from softball, football, and the latest from the Australian Open. Stay tuned.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. To softball now, and Kikila Cats lost to United Brothers at the weekend when they were clawed by Brown Eagles in the Port Moresby men's softball competition. Fabian Hakalitz with the highlights.
Yesterday's A-grade match saw Eagles registering 2 runs through JC number 38, John Takyun, after a fair hit. Eagles quickly reconvened after 2 down. Aldit was on 43, who brought his brothers home with another 3 runs, leading with 5. Cats had a better to play around with, sending Eagles keeper Collis Bagal back to the dugout when his low bunt was caught by the third baseman. But for Pagal, it was a great polish with his pitching tactics. With strong defense from infielders, this prevented Cats from scoring. Young Gabriel Maloney was the lone batter who slugged the ball to the outfield and was safe on second base. Despite Maloney being on the third base this time, Pagal's focus was on the batter and he prevented them from scoring. However, a top 2 inning, Cats came hard, sending 2 Eagles batters back to the dugout. Outfielders also kept a great outlook on slug balls, especially with Benito Alvid's hit. But Eagles kept biting when Thomas Capiana's hit was caught. Eagles then tightened the defense with a run-in and run-out. Mishandling by Cats keeper from his pitching works was a base on ball called by the umpire after a fair hit by Jason 42, so more runs scored. Eagles kept showing no mercy rule to Cats. But it was not until bottom 4 when Cats broke the 0 score, registering 2 runs. Eagles led through the full time with a scoreline of 8-2. Fabian Hakletz, National EMTV Sports.
To tennis, and Caroline Wozniacki and Rafael Nadal can take a step towards Australian Open glory tonight when they play in the quarterfinals. But the dream for the 7th title for Novak Djokovic is over after being beaten by a player who idolizes him.
A fortnight after their first round meeting at the ASB Classic in Auckland, new Korean sensation Hyung Chung and the aptly named Tennis Sangren will meet in the quarterfinals of the year's first Grand Slam.
I think a big deal was playing Chung in Auckland. We had a tight contest, and I feel like I had to raise my game to even compete with him on the court.
Chung, the world number 58, won that match and went as far as the quarterfinals in Auckland. Last night, his relentless energy and power were too much for 6-time Australian Open champion Novak Djokovic.
Oh, it's brilliant. Yet again.
Djokovic was clearly hampered by his ongoing elbow injury, but Chung was a deserving winner.
Young Chung was the first Korean ever to make the last eight in a major.
I'm just trying to copy Novak because he's my idol, so...
It's Djokovic's first straight sets loss at the Australian Open since 2007. Sandgren meanwhile warmed up for their rematch with a 5-set win over 5th seed Dominic Thiem. In contrast, top seed Simona Halep stayed on track for her first ever Grand Slam title with a straight sets win over Naomi Osaka. And Auckland regular Barbara Strycova lost her all-Czech 4th round match against Karolina Pliskova.
What a terrific rally.
And that ends True Kai Sports. We'll have for you the weather details when we come back.
True Kai Sports. True Kai Sports.
The weather details are proudly brought to you by Dulux Weather Shield. Worth doing with Dulux.
A look at the weather forecast for the next 24 hours in the southern region. Showers are expected all across the region in Port Moresby, Daru, Kerma, Alotau and Popotetta with a top of 31. To the Momasa region, mostly fine in Leh and Wa. Fine weather as well expected in Madang, Wewak and Vanimo. To the New Guinea Islands region, fine weather expected in Lorengau, Keviang, mostly fine as well for Kokopo, Rabaul, Kimbe and Buka. And in the Highlands region, Mount Hagen, Goroka, Kundiawa, Mendi and Wabeg, all these major centres can expect brief showers over the next 24 hours with morning fog. To the forecast for small ships for the next 24 hours, waters of southern PNG Indonesian border through Torres Strait and Daru to Kiwai Island to Kerma, Yule Island to Hood Point to Samarai Island, and with waters of eastern and western Milne Bay Islands and waters of Manus and its western group of islands, and the waters of New Ireland to New Britain to Bougainville, sea 0.5 to 1.3 meters. Waters of Samarai Island to Kivogol, Finchafen, waters of Finchafen to Vitias and Dampier Strait, to Siasi Island, Long Island, and with waters of Long Island to Madang, Bogia, Wewak, Aitape, Vanimo, and the northern PNG Indonesian border, sea 0.5 to 1.2 meters. And a look at the ocean forecast for PNG areas. Coral Sea, sea slight with winds at 10 to 15 knots. Solomon Sea, sea slight with northeast to northwesterly winds at 10 to 15 knots. Bismarck Sea, sea slight with northeast to northwesterly winds at 10 to 15 knots. And the Pacific Ocean, sea slight with northeast to northwesterly winds at 10 to 15 knots as well.
The weather details are proudly brought to you by Dulux Weather Shield. Worth doing with Dulux.
And that's the way it is this Tuesday, the 23rd of January 2018. On behalf of the EMTV News team, pleasant viewing. Good night.